There's been mixed reaction to the latest level 4 restrictions. Business will no doubt suffer, and COSATU says relief needs to be provided to sectors prohibited from trading. I'm joined now by Matthew Parks, COSATU's parliamentary coordinator. Matthew, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So, of course, many people were listening carefully to what the President had to say, but we didn't hear any information on relief for sectors that have to shut down.
Yes, and look, we appreciate the intervention government has had to make. Government's in a very difficult situation where they need to save lives and to save livelihoods. I think for many of the interventions, we do appreciate also that government has sought to avoid disrupting the economy too much. You remember during level 4 last year, when about 15 to 30% of workers couldn't go back to work under the restrictions. But we do feel we made proposals, COSATU at NEDLAC. We are having engagement with government this week at NEDLAC to see what support can we give to these workers and to these sectors of the economy which are under restrictions. We have to give companies and workers some sort of relief to enable them to survive, to avoid retrenchments, to avoid companies collapsing, to avoid sending workers home with nothing to take care of their families. The UAF has agreed recently to providing relief for vulnerable workers who can't work safely, for example, the over 60s or those are cohabitities. We need to now provide relief again to the liquor industry, the tourism, hospitality, sports, event sectors, because we cannot condemn people to poverty. The UF has to come to the party. There is sufficient funds available in the UIF, but equally it can't be the UF which carries this economy alone on its shoulders. Government should look at giving some sort of tax relief to these companies to help them survive the next period. But equally, the one party which has not played any significant role during this pandemic has been the banks and the insurance industries. They need to give solidarity. They need to give some relief in terms of premium payments, loan payments to these sectors to enable them simply to stay open and to avoid retrenching any further workers.
What's your way forward then? Because government is not providing any relief. We've heard that they don't have any money. You say the UIF does. So how do you approach government to say that you can't just, shut down industries and sectors, which are ultimately going to actually now have to consider job cuts? How do you say you need to help? Because you and I talking is not going to get them to help.
So look, we've had this conversation with government for past year. In fact, in June last year, government wanted to cut and run and to stop providing support. We forced, as COSATU at NEDLAC, with the support of our colleagues and other federations and in business, we forced government to give relief. Government originally only wanted to give 40 billion rand from the UIF into the economy. That's almost reached 70 billion rand because of our efforts. We've had to drag them kicking and screaming time and again. We'll continue to do that. We simply do not have a choice when workers are sent home with no wages, when companies which depend upon a day-to-day trading to survive are told to close or to reduce operations. So we will push it, and government has no choice. It's a fundamental moral obligation. If you restrict companies and workers from earning their income, you must give some support. And also bear in mind that many of these sectors, even after you open up in a few weeks' time or months' time, whatever, will take months to recover. The tourism, the hospitality sectors are kneecapped because of international travel restrictions based upon a very, very slow vaccine rollout rate in South Africa. So we're going to need to look at creative solutions between the UIF, between the fiscus and tax relief, between the banks and insurance parties getting off and coming to the party to assist these companies to survive, to keep these workers afloat and to help these industries to grow. So that has to be done. It's nonsensical for some minister in the presidency to claim government doesn't have money. If government doesn't have money, they must stop stealing it. Politicians must stop looting, must stop feeding tenders to their families, then we can find money. If government wants to be serious, perhaps we can stop breaking the SOEs and mismanaging them and looting them to the point of collapse. We can capacitate SARS to deal with tax evasion. And for example, if the minister feels she doesn't know where money can come from, she can sacrifice half of her salary, because that is what ordinary farm and retail and restaurant workers are doing. Yet some of our ministers are so removed from the reality of ordinary South Africans, it's beyond shocking. So she needs to get off of her high horse, give some of her salary. And you remember last year the president said the ministers must give 3 months' salary to the Solidarity Fund. Well, none of them did that. And that's something that these ministers should be held accountable for.
Yeah, you're spot on, because there's so much corruption in this government. It's shocking that we're now told we don't have money when there was looting involved. So there are calls from some quarters for defiance of these regulations, especially industries that are now affected by the latest restrictions. What do you say to that?
Those people are mad, and they should not be tolerated. The police must enforce the rule of law. We cannot allow a few hooligans, a few juvenile delinquents to put at risk the entire South African nation, not only people's lives and their livelihoods. We can't allow it. Government has been far too soft on implementing the rule of law, and we would encourage the police to act extremely firmly with anybody who wants to defy the law. In particular, your shebeens, your taverns, in particular your taxis, where taxi drivers don't abide by the restrictions, but also political parties. There are two political parties of significant influence and representation in Parliament, which have shown a wanton disregard to the disaster management regulations.
Yeah.
We should not be allowing any political parties to march and to defy the regulations. Government must have some courage and fortitude and enforce the rule of law, because you cannot expect ordinary workers and shopkeepers to abide when politicians earning a very kind and generous taxpayers' funded salary choose to behave like delinquents time and again and put all of our lives at risk.
All right, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. That was Matthew Parks, COSATU's parliamentary coordinator. He's so honest. He just said people who are trying to defy regulations are mad. We'll have more news.